In this video, we're going to discuss CRA models for whole number subtraction strategies that are based on place value and properties. So again, this won't be an inclusive list of all the strategies that are relevant here, but any kind of strategy where students are flexibly using place value concepts such as a decomposition or the properties of addition, such as a commutative property or the associative property, would all apply to this kind of category of strategies. So we're actually this will be split into kind of two different sections. So it's all going to be subtraction problems. This entire first set of strategies is going to be solving a subtraction problem by using addition. So sometimes you might see this referred to as think addition because we're thinking of addition. That'll be kind of based on that fact family relationship. So for all the concrete models, we're going to use base 10 blocks. For all the representational models, we're going to use number lines, and we'll use our numbers and symbols for our equations. Okay, so for all the strategies that we'll look at for both the solving with addition and solving with subtraction strategies is going to be 73 minus 46. Okay. So again, we're thinking of this as addition. Right? So we have 73 minus 46 is equal to some number. That's our difference. Right? Another way we can think of that is if we start with 46 and we add something to that number, we'll eventually get to 73. So we're trying to think of what do we need to add to that starting amount of 46 to where we can end or reach 73. Okay. So we're going to start with the concrete model, and this first strategy is going to be, we're going to first add tens, and then we're going to add on ones. Okay. So again, we're starting with 46. We're going to add some amount to that, and we want this quantity to end at 73. So I'm going to use different colored base 10 blocks just so we can keep track of what we've added a little more easily. Okay. So again, we're going to add tens first, and then we're going to add on ones after that. Okay. So if I add on one group of 10, right now I have 5 tens and 6 ones, so I'm at 56. So I'm going from 46 to 56. Add on another 10, I'm at 66. I don't really want to add a third one on because then I'll get over 73. I'll be at 76. That'll be a different strategy actually. But so now we've added our tens until we have reached the point where we can't add more tens without going over. Now we're going to add ones. Okay. So we're going to add our ones to our original quantity, 6 ones. So first I'm going to add 4. Okay, I'm adding 4 because that will give me one group of 10 there. So even though I'm not trading this out for a solid piece that's a 10, we can just arrange that as a 10. The reason I don't want to trade it out so I can keep those two different colors in there. Okay. So now I'm at 70, I have to get to 73. All right, I have 7 tens now, so I need to add 3 more ones. Now that I've added the 3 ones, now I have 7 tens, 3 ones, I have 73. So then I'm looking at, well, what did I have to add to 46, right? 46 is all the blue. So what did I have to add to the blue pieces in order to get to 73? So I had to add 2 tens, and here I added 4 ones and 3 ones, so I added a total of 7 ones. So I've added 2 tens and 7 ones for a total of 27. So that question mark, that difference there between the two is 27. So that's the concrete model for this first strategy. And we'll look at the representational model to build our number line. Okay, so again, we're going to start by adding tens. And then once we can't add more tens without going over, we're going to start adding on ones. Okay, and then our difference is going to be shown in these number line jumps. So these jumps that we make at the top, that's what we're adding onto 46 to reach 73. Okay, so I've added 10. So I did in the concrete model gets 56. I'll add another 10 to get to 66. Again, adding another 10 will get me past 73. So I'll add 4 to get to 70. And then add 3 to get to 73. Okay, so I did 10 plus 10 plus 4 plus 4. So in total, I did plus 27, right? So that difference is 27. So 27 plus, or 46 plus what equals 73? It's 46 plus 27 will equal 23. So that or 73. So the difference between 73 and 46 is 27. The abstract models for this is going to look a little bit different than we've normally seen. Because again, we're thinking of this as 46 plus what equals 73. We don't really know what that what part is, what that question mark is. And so we're just kind of adding things on until we get to 73. So that's kind of what our abstract model is going to show as well. Okay, so I started at 46. And the first thing I did, I'm going to do the first two steps all at once just to kind of save space. But again, we use different colors in the model. I'm going to do kind of the same thing in my abstract just because it's easy to lose track of these numbers, which is which, if we don't do that. So first thing I did, I added 10 and then I added another 10, but I'm just going to do this all in one step here. I added 2 sets of 10 or 20. And that got me to, again, those 2 jumps of 10 got me to 66. So then from 66, I added 4. And that got me to 70. Then from 70, I added 3. Which got me all the way up to 73. So the difference from 46, what I had to add in order to reach 73, is just going to be all those red numbers. So 20 and 4, 3. And so I added a total of 27. All right, so that's our first strategy for solving subtraction using addition with those concrete representational abstract models. The next strategy we're going to do is we're going to add to make a 10. Then we'll add 10s, and then we'll add any 1s that we need to. Okay. So let's reset this. So we're starting with 46. Okay, so with this strategy, I'm not going to add 10s on right away. I'm going to, again, this is a variation of that making 10 strategy, right? Making a multiple of 10. So I'm going to add on some 1s first to make a nice multiple of 10. So I'm going to add 4 to that quantity of 6, because that gets me another 10. Again, our goal is to make this quantity 73, that starting amount of 46, 73. So I've added 4, so I'm at 50. Okay, so we've made a 10. We can add on 10s nicely to this. Right, so from 50, we can add on 2 more 10s to get to 70. So I'm close, I'm not quite there, so I need to add 3 more 1s on. So now I'm at 73. So then again, we're looking at what did we have to add to 46 to reach 73. So I added 2 10s, those 7 1s. So I've added a total of 27. Then our number line, the representational model. Again, first what we did, we added 4 to get to a multiple of 10 to get to 50. And we did just 20 all at once in that concrete model, so do that here. We added 20 all at once to get to 70. Again, we need to get to 73. Okay, so from 46 to 73, that difference was 4 plus 20 plus 3. So in total, I added 27. Okay. And then again, our abstract, it's going to look a little different since we don't know what we're adding, so we kind of have to do it in iterative steps like we did in the models. All right, so we'll start with 7. Start with 46. The first thing we did was add 4. That got us up to 50. Then from 50, we added 2 10s or 20. That got us to 70. And then from 70, we added 3 to get to 73. So again, we started at 46. We made these jumps to get to 73. So we added 4 and 20 and 3. So we added 27. Okay. So that's the example where we're kind of doing that making 10 strategy. And then our last strategy for using addition to solve a subtraction problem is we're going to add a quote unquote nice number and then compensate for that. Okay, so kind of another compensation strategy. So you're going to start with 46. Okay, so we're going to add some nice number that we know is kind of close to 73. It might be over or under. In this example, it's going to be a little bit over, and then we're going to have to make some adjustment. Okay. So again, we're starting with 46. We want to make this to be a total of 73. So I might see that, well, I can just add 3 10s right away, and that's close, right? Then I have 76, but I've added too many, right? I've added too many of these orange base 10 blocks. Okay, so what I need to do, right? I don't want to have 6 1s. I just want to have 3 1s over here. So really 3 of these 1s should have been regrouped with some other amount. Okay, so what I need, right? I shouldn't have added a full 10 here, right? I kind of overshot, so now I'm doing a compensation. So instead of having this full 10, I need to get rid of these 3, right? So then I'll just replace that entire 10 with just these 7 1s. Okay, so I kind of over added, and then I had to take 3 of these away. So then again, now we have a total of 73. We can see what we have to add to 46 to reach 73. We did the 2 10s, 7 1s, so a total of 27. Okay. So that's the concrete model, what this would look like with a representational model or number line. All right, so what we did right away, we started 46, we did one big jump. Right, we added 30, we added 3 10s to get to 76. So we overshot, we just wanted to go to 73, we overshot it a little bit, so I need to take away 3 in order to get down to 73. Okay, so there again, the total, my difference is shown in my jumps there, so positive 30 and minus 3. So in total, I did a jump of 27. Okay. And then again, kind of similar with our abstract model. Right, we did 46. First thing we did was add 30. And that got us to 76. And then from 76, you can think of adding a -3 or subtracting 3. I'm just going to put this in here so we can keep that negative sign red. So 76 minus 3 got us down to 73. So again, the total jumps you made is in the red there. So 30 and -3. Add those together, you get 27. All right, so those are the strategies for solving that subtraction problem using addition. But now we're just going to actually solve the subtraction problem using subtraction. Okay, so rather than starting with 46, we're just going to be starting at 73. We're going to take away 46. And then we're going to see what do we have remaining in that group. So we need to start with our... So we got 73. So I'm going to have these up here. And then what I've subtracted, I'm just going to put down at the bottom of this whiteboard. So it'll be kind of just down here. Okay, so we got 73, and we're starting with 73, and we're going to take away 46. So our first strategy for this is going to be to first subtract our 10s, and then subtract our 1s until we've reached a quantity of 46 down at the bottom. So once we have taken away 46, then I know that'll be our stopping point. So we're starting by subtracting our 10s. So I know I need to take away 4 10s, right? So I can just take those 4 10s away right away. Okay, so that's got me down to 33. So now I need to take away 6 1s, or I need 46 down here. That's been taken away. Right now I just have 40. I need to take away 6 more. I just have 3 1s up here. So I'll need to ungroup one of these 10s as 10 1s. Okay, so instead of a 10 there, we're going to turn that into 10 1s. So now we have 2 10s and then 13 1s up in our original amount. So again, we need to take away 46. We've taken away 40. So we can take away 6. And then what that leaves us with is 27, right? So when we start with 73, we've taken away 46. What we're left with is that difference of 27. Okay. So what that looks like on our representational model, again, we're using number line for this one. We're starting at 73. What we did first was subtract our 10s and then subtract our 1s. So we're going to subtract 46. So 46 is going to be the jumps backward up here. And wherever we end up is going to, on the number line, that's going to be our difference there. Okay, so we first subtracted 40. Right, and that got us to 33. And then with the number lines, you don't really have to regroup in the same sense that you have to for the base 10 block. So this one we can really do in one jump if we want, right? We've subtracted 40, we needed to subtract 6 more. If you wanted, you could subtract 3 and then subtract 3 again. We'll just do this in one. So that gets us down to 27. And then for our abstract model, so we have 73 minus 46. So what we're changing this into is 73 minus 40 minus 6, right? So if you wanted, you could write this as 40. Right, we're decomposing that 46 into 40 plus 6, but when you subtract both of those quantities, all right, so then we did 73 minus 40, so we get to 33 minus 6. And again, we could separate that into 3 and 3, but we didn't in the number line model. So 33 minus 6, then it gets us to 27. All right, so that was our first strategy for solving that subtraction problem using place value and properties. The next strategy is going to be, it's going to be kind of the subtraction version of that making 10 strategy. So you might call it decomposing to make a 10 or decomposition leading to a 10. Okay. But so we need to start with our 73 again. And all right, so we're starting with our quantity of 73. And we want to take away 46, so that 46 can be down here. But again, we're going to start by subtracting to make a 10. So we're going to subtract the 1s so that we have some even increment of 10, some multiple of 10. Okay, so I'm going to subtract the 1s first, so now I'm at 70. Okay, so I've subtracted 3. Now I'm going to subtract 40, right? Just do 70 minus 40. So that gets me down to 30. So I still am going to have to regroup here because I've only taken away 3 1s and need to take away 6 1s. Right? So again, instead of having this 10, we're going to trade that for 10 1s. So then I can take away 3 more 1s. Okay, so I've taken away or subtracted a total of 46, and then that difference, what I'm left with, is 27. Okay, so it looks pretty similar. We're just doing some of the steps in a little bit different order. Okay, so kind of what that looks like on our number line in our representational model. The first thing that we did was, right, we subtracted 3. That got us to 70. Then we subtracted 40, which took us all the way down to 30. We've only subtracted 43 so far. We need to subtract 46, so we need to subtract 3 more, which gets us all the way down to 27. Okay. So then for our abstract model, so 73 minus 46. Again, we're just decomposing this a little bit differently. So we have 73 minus, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to write them all out all at once. So we had 73 minus 3 minus 40 and minus 3. Okay, so in this first step, we're just associating these two terms together. Okay, so 73 minus 3 gets us a 70 minus 40 minus 3. Then we subtracted that 40, right? So we associated these together. So then we get to 30 minus 3, and then subtracting 3 from 30 gets us to 27. And then for our last strategy, we're solving this using subtraction. We're going to subtract a nice number and then do some kind of compensation again. So kind of similar to some of those earlier compensation strategies that we've seen. We're going to kind of overshoot and then make an adjustment later. Okay, so we're starting with our quantity of 73. So we want to take away 46. Maybe I might first just subtract 50 because that's close to 40. Right, and that's easy to do from 73. I can just take these away. Okay, so that gets me down to 23, but I've subtracted too much, right? I've taken away 50 when I should have just taken away 46. I have 5 10s and 0 1s. I should have 4 10s and 6 1s. So we need to put some of those back. We need to re-add that on there. Okay, so what we'll need to do here then, we need to swap out one of these 10s for 10 1s. Right, so we just ungrouped or regrouped those, right? So we still have a total quantity of 50 down here. All right, I just want to have 4 10s and 6 1s. All right, 4 10s and 6 1s. That means I need to put these 4 back or add these 4 back to this group. Okay. So now I have taken away 46, and my difference, what I'm left with, is going to be 27. This is the concrete model, and then for our representational model, right, the first thing that we did, right, we need to subtract 46, but what I did was just I subtracted 50, right, which got me down to 23. Now this is, I subtracted too much, right? I took away too many. I didn't want to actually take away 50, I just needed to take away 46. So I needed to add 4 back on, so that gets me from 23 to 27. And then for the abstract model, our equation, what this looks like, again, we're going to decompose this into, and I'm going to write this one out with the kind of the full steps here. So you have 73 minus, and so if we're minus, we're just looking at the 46. We're going to decompose this into 50 minus 4. Okay. So then when we distribute, I know we haven't got to the distributive property yet, but when we distribute this minus, this negative sign throughout our grouping symbols there, we get 73 minus 50, and we minus a negative 4. Right, for subtracting the opposite of 4, it's the same thing as adding a 4. So we'll get to the integer operations in a few videos, but then we're associating these together. 23 plus 4. Add those together, we get 27. So yeah, there's a lot of strategies that kind of fit into this category, right? Where we're solving subtraction problems using place value and properties. We can solve them using either addition or subtraction, but some of the common models are going to rely more on the base 10 blocks, and then our number lines for the concrete representational, and then our equations for the abstract model.